Hello, hello, hello. The mask is back, okay? And we have Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. Let's just jump into it, okay? Now, this one, I don't know really why Carly Judas is that much of a favorite. Maybe it's because of the youth or inexperience of Dubin, but then again, she's actually older. So I don't really get that. From what I saw in the Contender Series, Eunice Dubin looks pretty good, so I'm just gonna go with her. And some people are saying KO, but you can't trust the KO in most women's fights, so it's gonna have to be a decision. This one I don't have too much to say on. I think that she has the greater power in her shots, so I think that she's gonna be able to land more consistently with more power. And it's overall gonna win her maybe a 30-27 or a 29-28. Either way, I don't think that she's gonna get any 10-8 rounds. And another women's fight. Oh boy. Josiane Nunes. I actually thought that she won in her last fight against was it Chelsea Chandler? I believe it was. No, okay. That one I actually thought she lost, I'm pretty sure, but Chelsea Chandler I definitely thought that she won. I was surprised it was unanimous. And Priscilla Cacuera, I don't know too much about her. I know that I've watched her fights before, at least one, but I didn't watch much tape on this. I just know that Josiane Nunes, I've seen more of her, and I think that she lands more hard shots. Similar to the last fight, I think that she's going to be maybe a little less technical than a Dumben, Eunice Duben, but she's definitely going to hit harder. So I'm going to say another decision, maybe more unanimously 30-27. Maybe a TKO. I could definitely see that for that one. And then Andre Lima versus Daniel Perez. Now, Daniel Perez is certainly underrated. I don't know why Andre Lima is this much of a favorite because he does have some pretty close pitter-patter fights, like tit for tat. And Daniel Perez, he does have good ground game and he has decent boxing. But Andre Lima's kicks are insane, so you kind of have to go with him on this because I feel like he's just gonna keep the distance much better, keep the range where he wants it to be. He has a decent jab as well, very nice actually. And yeah, the leg kicks is the best tool in his game from what I've seen, from what I remember from his last two fights. And I think that if Daniel Perez tries to get close in the pocket, I don't think he'll be able to get much off. So I'm going to say a decision. Probably actually a split I could see for this one. Not the two other women's fights, surprisingly enough, but I think that Lima will get a split decision because Daniel Perez is actually better than people think. And Sam Hughes versus Stefan Lucinio. Um, Sam Hughes definitely impressed me with their last fight, and I was very unfortunate to not pick her because I was actually considering picking her up until the day of the fight in which I switched my pick. This was before I made my channel. Um, I forget, what was it, Victoria Dudakova, yeah. I was actually picking Sam Hughes the whole time for that fight, but then I switched it to Victoria Dudakova at the last second, so that's kind of annoying. But Stefiana Lucinio, I think that the thing is with Sam Hughes, she's okay everywhere. Like she's a good gatekeeper, and she definitely beats some good like prospects. If you look at the records of the girls she beats, they're around like 5-0. 8-0 was Dudakova, I think, and some other ones like maybe 6-1, 5-1, something like that. In her other wins and even in her losses, she's fighting relatively good competition there even as well. So, that you got to give the credit there. But ultimately, the Victoria Dudakova fight was still pretty close, and I did not really like that because Victoria Dudakova was clearly gassing, and she didn't even look good against I believe it was Junyun Frey, the Dudakova girl I'm talking about. She had a very close fight with her, and I was surprised with that. Even though yes, she clearly won that, it was actually really close. And Junyun Frey, she was like 11-9 or something, which is not a good record at all. Let's be honest. So I understand that Sam Hughes is actually underrated, absolutely. But Stefian Lucino, I think that she also has some decent wins, and she beat another prospect, a Brazilian prospect in her own last fight. So, she's 25, and also the reach and height is going to be a little bit on her advantage as well. So I'm just going to say she's, youth, maybe little more technical, just a little bit. Maybe she throws more straight punches down the pipe, and she lands the cleaner shots with also a little bit better reach and height. I'm going to say she's a little more technical. So I'm going to say another decision. Lots of decisions here. And we have Josias Musasa versus Carlos Vera. I thought that Josias Musasa actually lost against the Georgian guy that's Murab's training partner. Or maybe not training partner, but friend, because I saw Murab there at that Contender Series fight in the, I believe it was an embedded during Murab's fight week for the Sphere card. And Otari, I'm not gonna try to pronounce the last name, but Otari, I actually thought that he won that, but Josias was pushing the pace, and he was still going for it, showing heart and grit. Um, even despite being a little bit outgunned technically, he was still just throwing, and those big shots look like they're hard, and so it's conveying to the judges that you're actually still in the fight, and that you're dangerous every moment of the fight, even if the opponent isn't wilting to that danger too much. And then Carlos Vera, I mean, I don't really know why he's still in the UFC. He's too old. He's not really going anywhere in his career. I mean, I don't remember, but just to check, who was his last guy that he fought? Nakamura, yeah. I um I was surprised how bad he did against Nakamura, because Nakamura, I mean, let's be honest, we saw against Murin Gafarov that his striking is very subpar. He was getting dropped like four different times in that fight, and Rinya Nakamura is not really a guy known for his hands. And I understand that he took that to the ground, the fight, but Carlos Vera still, I mean, the fact that he wasn't able to capitalize at all on the striking for the most part, so yeah, that's not really good. And against a guy like Josias Musasa, who is very better, very explosive on the feet, very much for sure better than Rinya Nakamura. Rinya is mostly a grappler, so the fact that he was doing okay on the feet against Carlos Vera, I'm sorry, I just can't pick him. I'm gonna have to say a first round KO here. I mean, I know that that's not a surprise, because literally everyone's picking him by first round KO, I imagine. At least most of them are picking like 80%, 77% are picking KO. I'm assuming most of that is round one. So, but I mean, like, what do you expect? I don't think that Carlos Vera is gonna really. I don't think he could do much here. He's kind of an NPC in the division. Let's be honest. I don't know why they wouldn't cut him, but then cut Taylor Lapulus. Like, that doesn't make sense. So yeah, AJ Cunningham versus Su Young Yu. Um, Cunningham's actually a really good underdog here, so I don't know. I mean, he actually showed some decent striking against Ludovic Klein until he just folded him. And Ludovic Klein, he doesn't really finish anyone, so that's not really a good look. And AJ Cunningham also, before then, he fought guys like 8 and 10 opponents and other bad records, other than an 8 and 10, like, just lots of not really um, prospect appearing records. They don't appear as prospects in their records. I mean, let's just take a look. Why don't we? 6 and 4. I mean, that's not the worst ever, but then and then decision on a 6 and 4. The 8 and 10 is the worst, I would say. But I mean, these aren't prospects, absolutely. And then Su Young Yu, granted, he's not fighting like UFC guys, and so he could be fraud checked here. But, he did go through some contender guys in the road to UFC, some guys that would have made it to the contender series. Like, no, he actually did find the UFC. I kind of forgot about that. Baragang Jealousy. I'm not gonna try and pronounce any others if they're like that. Yeah, and then a 9 and 1, 12 and 4. Like, I know that he has decent striking. I need to go back and watch some tape for his next fight, because I haven't done much tape on Su Young Yu. in recent memory, if I'm being honest. But AJ Cunningham, I know that his fight in against Ludwig Klein, he actually did have some good straight punches, and then Ludwig Klein threw some nasty shots to the body, and then eventually it folded AJ Cunningham. So that's certainly something to look out for here. Maybe body shots is something that Su Young Yu can look for, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be a pretty close decision because I think that AJ Cunningham is being massively underrated. Ludwig Klein is very good, so that's no shame in losing to him. And then lots of decisions. Waldo Cortez Acosta and Ryan Spann. I'm actually gonna pick Spann by a submission in the first round. I'm going to say that he drops Waldo Cortez Acosta in the first or second round, maybe midway through the second round or late in the first round. I'm going to say there's a bit of a feeling out process in the first round, especially since Ryan Spann is feeling out the weight and the body, um, feeling out the heavyweight division, because it's his first time in heavyweight, as far as my memory serves. I know it's his first time in recent times. I know that he's certainly not in his last five fights. I certainly know that he's not fought in heavyweight for most of his career, at least. He's definitely been a light heavyweight, so this is going to be a feeling out process for him. And Waldo Cortez Acosta is certainly underrated, let's be honest. He's very much so underrated. He has good takedowns, honestly. We saw against Robelas de Spain, a big guy that he was taking down. And I understand that Austin Lane was implementing a grappling game against him as well, but, you know, Waldo Cortez Acosta was doing it better, I think we could definitively say. And he also outstruck, what's his name? The guy from Belarus. Let me just double check here. No, Andrei Arlovsky. Wow, I should have known that, but Andrei Arlovsky, he pretty definitively outstruck him. But he was kind of like, first of all, that dude was one or two fights away from retirement there, or the GFL, the Grandpa Fight League. But, you know, yes, he was doing good against him, but again, he's fought like a guy that was two fights away from exiting the UFC, one or two fights. And then also he was having a pretty close tit for tat battle. Yes, he was kind of emoting and kind of impressing in that he was having some slick upper body movement, evading some shots pretty well, but he was getting leg kicked. He was getting shots landed on the upper half as well. Ryan Spann is much faster. He's much more youthful than mm, Andrei Arlovsky. And we know that he has power, and so I think that he's going to drop Waldo Cortez Acosta, and he has a nasty guillotine we saw against. I mean, he was rolling for submissions against Nikita Krylov, and Nikita Krylov eventually got the better of that, but he's really underrated as well. And I think he got a sub on, what was it, Ova St. Preux? Yeah, guillotine. So he has a nasty guillotine. He has some other good submissions. I think he got some others in his career as well, as of recent. And then, of course, I know Dominic Reyes at that point, he was not really defensively responsible, but he did destroy Dominic Reyes. So, I mean, I think he's going to drop him and then get a nice gilly. Don't be silly, jump the gilly. Kevin Vallejos. I think this is going to be a very. Mm, no, I'm gonna say it's gonna be not like first minute or first seconds of the fight, but I'm gonna say this is gonna be a fairly early first round KO. I'm gonna say maybe midway through the fight, maybe 3 minutes in the fight, around middle points of the fight. He lands. It's gonna be similar to his second Contender Series fight. I saw his Contender Series fight. I watched it just the other day, and my goodness, his body shots were insane, very nice, very accurate. And then he comes upstairs with beautiful uppercuts. He should have went to the leg kicks more because his leg kicks were spinning the dude almost. He only landed like two, but he had very nice leg kicks, very powerful as well. And we know that Seung Woo Choi in his recent fights as well, even in his wins, he's not like the most like impressive, and he's getting knocked out. So against a very well prospect who even did well against the only guy in recent memory to go to decision against John Silva. I mean, he actually showed some good moments in that fight, and he was very young in his career. I know that he's only 2 years older now, but 2 years is a lot as well in the fight game. So Yeah, I think that this is going to be a pretty devastating body shot TKO. Very heavy right hook to the body, I'm going to say. Vicious. Maybe a knee, but because he has okay knees even, but I'm gonna say body like a hook because hook to the body, maybe uppercut because my goodness, his hands to the body are insane, and even some uppercuts upstairs. Very good prospect to look out for, I'd say. And then we have Brennison Ribeiro and Zayev or Zai. He missed weight, so. That's an advantage for him, I'd say. Maybe he's going to be slower in this fight. That's certainly something to look out for. Maybe he's going to be slower, but also he's going to maybe try some takedowns. Maybe he's going to try and smudge it against the fence. Usually the guy with the weight advantage is the guy that's going to win, I would say. And, he's younger by a bit, not much. And the reach is certainly something to look out for. It's certainly a caution sign here because Bredesen does have really, really good reach, and he actually did look good against Min Ying Zhang before he got KO'd, but he got brutally KO'd there. He has been KO'd before then even, and granted that was a long time ago, but and he's in the win column, but he looked sloppy in that fight. I'm gonna be honest. He was kind of he would like jab into a big overhand that was like very obvious, telegraphed. And that's kind of what Caio Machado was doing as well, right? Yeah, Machado, just making sure. And against the Polish guy, Sawarski, I'm not gonna try and pronounce that. Bartosz, the Polish guy. He was showing some like power, and I think that's dangerous against a guy who, yes, Mingying Jiang is a highly touted prospect to look out for, but Um, you know, he was not. He hasn't been proven much, and he was landing big shots against Bernison Ribeiro, which put Bernison Ribeiro out cold. And I think that Dayar Nurzogaya is going to be able to do the same thing. He's going to land short, quick punches. Granted, the weight might make him not as quick, but I think if he gets in the pocket, he's very dangerous for Bredesen Ribeiro. So I'm going to say a early round two TKO where he maybe finds some um, dangerous moments. Maybe Bredesen Ribeiro keeps his range, keeps his distance pretty well, but then he just messes up early in the second round with a little too much arrogance and confidence, and eventually Dyer finds the shot to put him out. And then we have Damon Blackshear versus Cody Gibson. I'm going to say a submission in the second round. I'm going to say that they're actually decently competitive on the feet in the first round. Maybe Cody Gibson tries a little smudge grappling. Damon is very actually underrated, and obviously the odds aren't suggesting that, but he is underrated because, yes, he doesn't have the best chin. He got KO'd early against, what was it, Montel Jackson. But I mean, look, Montel Jackson is very good. He's practically top 15. Even if he's not in top 15 right now, he should be. And Damon Blackshear, yes, his chin is kind of out there sometimes, but against a guy like Cody Gibson, he's not really shown KO ability. Yes, he's shown some okay striking in moments, but you know, I always point to the Miles Jones fight. I know that in my last two fights I got him wrong. I picked against Cody Gibson, and hopefully I don't get it wrong here. This is my third time picking against him, but the Miles Jones fight was really not a good thing to see. He was very slow. It looked like he was labored in his shots. He was just kind of swinging from the hips there. Not really impressive there, and I think that Damon Blackshear is going to hurt him on the feet. Cody Gibson shoots a lazy takedown, and then Damon either gets a guillotine himself, similar to Ryan Spann, although not from a dropping punch, or I could also see him getting on mount from a sloppy takedown from Cody Gibson where he's not having success on the feet, tries a takedown, falls over himself, and then maybe Damon Blackshear, maybe I don't know, maybe an arm triangle, maybe a triangle from maybe he gets on top, lands a few ground pound shots, ground and pound, and then Cody Gibson tries to get on top. Oh, he gets on top. Oh, everybody's like, maybe he could get a chance to survive here, and then boom, he gets the triangle. So I'm gonna say something like that, maybe a triangle or a guillotine on a lazy shot. And then we have Alexander Hernandez versus Kurt Holobaugh. This is a really hard one to pick, actually. I think that Kurt Holobaugh is a really good pick here, maybe 2 years ago, because he looked really good in I think it was a tough finale where he got like a triangle armbar, and that was really good. You know, his jiu-jitsu looked really solid there. But I honestly think Alexander Hernandez is due for a KO. I'm gonna say a round one KO because against these slower, longer, taller guys, he's usually able to find these big shots, like a Beneil Dariush, I believe. He found a um an overhand or like a beautiful 1-2, something like that. It could have been a knee, but maybe I'm thinking of Edson Barboza versus Beneil. Either way, it was really impressive, his hand speed there early. And I think that he's really good at lightweight. I like him better at lightweight. The Austin Hubbard fight, right, that was a one-off, I think. It was him going back up to lightweight, adjusting to the lightweight frame, adjusting to the weight. I think that maybe in the third and the second, seeing, oh my gosh, he's not going away from my punches, he was sort of in shock. And due to that, he was not expecting the comeback from Austin Hubbard. And so he was losing confidence there. And so he needed a little bit of time to regather himself and find a second win. And Kurt Holobaugh, he's good, but he could implement a bit of a Donald Cerrone approach here, which Donald humbled Hernandez. So I could totally see something here. But Hernandez has a, he sort of humbled himself in recent times, and I don't think that he's gonna be too eager for the KO. I think that he's gonna pace himself a lot better, and he's just gonna let the KO come to him. So I'm gonna say a late round one KO with a maybe 1-2 down the pipe, or he goes for a 1-2 and then he comes around with a hook. I'm gonna say it, maybe a big left hook. Or it could be a right, but I'm gonna say a left hook is the most likely option here. And then Zaleski versus Chidi Nikodwani. Sorry, I'm butchering her name there, but I'm gonna say Alessio Zaleski. I think that he could implement a very similar approach to a Mikhail Alexeychuk. I think Chidi is a very underrated pick here, absolutely. But I think that Elizeu in his last fight showed that he's not slowing down with his older age. And I think that if you are a gritty boxer with very good hands and cardio and pace, you could kind of fold Chidi in later moments of the fight. So I'm going to say a early round three TKO. I'm going to say that Chidi kind of fades in the late parts of the second round, but he survives, and then Leslie Zaleski doesn't back off. I'm gonna say he doesn't let him get any breathing time. I'm gonna say he doesn't give him any breathing room, and I'm gonna say he's just gonna pressure him at the end of the third round because Chidi, you gotta remember his fight against Oleg Zaychuk. And Oleg Zaychuk wasn't really able to pressure these other guys in his career as much as he could Chidi. And he was kind of similar frame as Elizeu Zaleski. Maybe not in his, physique, but, because he's a little more plotty and a little more chubby there, I'm just going to be honest. But he was sort of similar reach, similar height, and he just kind of broke Chidi with good boxing. Just good boxing and tight uppercuts, 1-2s, hooks around the guard. And I think that he's just gonna break Chidi, and you know he's good, but Jared Gooden, that's his name, right? Yeah, he was kind of just a punching bag in that fight, or a clinch knee in the clinch bag, I guess, because he was constantly landing those knees in tight, and there were moments where Jared Gooden could kind of get out of there, but he just wouldn't. He would just kind of engage in the grappling and the smudge clinch too much. And I just don't think that Alessio Zaleski is that much of an NPC in as far as the grappling and the clinch work is concerned. Like, yeah, that looked very dominant, but in hindsight, that was a very like overrated win. Like Jared Gooden just did nothing in that fight except for the first minute of that fight where he was actually trying a little bit, but aside from that, he was just kind of a clinching bag or a punching bag, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, yeah, he was, you know, piecing him up in the knees and in the elbows and in the body shots and all around the clinch, but that's not Alessio Zaleski. He's not going to fold to that. Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. I've been watching a lot of these guys' fights, and Marvin Vettori, he won the first fight, granted. I actually thought that Roman Dolidze, watching it back, I watched it a couple days back, I gave it Roman Dolidze. I think that Roman Dolidze won the first and the third, but the first was so 50-50 to be honest, because Marvin Vettori landed a lot of good leg kicks, a lot of good pitter-pat shots, decent jab, really good jab, underrated jab, let's be honest. And Roman Dolidze definitely had the bigger moment of that first round, but that was a really 50-50 round. Is basically, okay, do you ignore um, the majority of what Marvin Vettori did in that round because it wasn't really wobbling Roman Dolidze, but then Roman Dolidze was not really throwing much, but he landed the bigger shots. So it was ultimately what do you value in that round, and I think that Marvin Vettori was showing in his face when he got hurt the like, oh shoot, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get off this fence here. He showed that in his face more so than Roman Dolidze was showing fatigue in the leg kicks or the jabs or the shots around the guard. I think that Roman Dolidze won that first round, but it was a very close fight. And then he clearly won the third, and then Vettori clearly won the second. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say about that first fight. And then Marvin Vettori, one thing you have to understand here I definitely think that he could win this fight. He's a lot younger. He's a lot more youthful. He could potentially learn things to use in this fight. But Roman Dolidze can implement grappling here, and I know what you might say if you watch the first fight and you know what I'm saying here. Oh well, he actually tried a takedown in I believe it was the second round, and it actually didn't work for him, and he actually couldn't get it. But you look at the Jared Cannonier fight, which Jared Cannonier is not a grappler, okay? He can grapple, but he's not a grappler. And you see in the Marvin Vettori versus Jared Cannonier fight, he took him down like five separate times, and with very good timing as well. So I think if Roman Dolidze lands with those big Ophi overhands, okay, those big ones. That Jared Cannonier landed very successfully as well. He showed to beautiful success those right hands. Sometimes he would land more straight punches, so that's something Roman Dolidze needs to look out for as well. Straight punches are better than the loopy shots that he was landing as well. That's a weasel quote. That's actually pretty true. And the straight punches beating looping punches. It's very true. He was trying the loopy right hands too much, the overhand rights, when he should try the straight ones down the pipe. Marvin Vettori doesn't like that very much. And one thing that he could certainly try, Dolidze, is once he lands those shots, once he lands those right hands that really hurt Vettori, go for the takedown, shoot for the takedown. Try and implement what Jared was doing. He had beautiful timing on those takedowns, even though he wasn't really known for the takedowns coming into that fight. And that's not something that people talk about much with that fight. They talk about the significant strikes, new record, and that's something that's really good too. But you know, it was the takedowns, and I think that knowing that Roman Dolidze has amazing jiu-jitsu and seeing what he did to Jack Hermanson, I think he could implement some really good top pressure. Even against Kevin Holland, you saw that. He kind of just ran at Anthony Smith with some big Ophi shots, and then Anthony Smith kind of curled up. And I know that's Anthony Smith, so he's not as good as Vettori. Vettori's actually underrated with his fundamentals. But you know, he kind of just ran at Anthony Smith and then just kind of unloaded big shots on the ground when Anthony Smith fell over. And, if he could actually, we've seen glimpses of success in the grappling with Dolidze. He just hasn't found the perfect shots sometimes, like against Vettori in their first fight. So if he mixes it up to the grappling and then, first round maybe big shots, then he gets takedown late in the round, then boom, he comes upstairs when he feints a takedown. Like, this is a beautiful game plan that he could implement here. um Even a jab, like, the straight punches I saw with Jared Cannonier, Vettori was not liking very much. So if he could just tighten it up and try and throw a little more straight shots, I could totally see a KO here even because Vettori, I think he's due to get KO'd with the amount of shots against Paulo Costa and Roman Dolidze in the first fight, um, Jared Cannonier. These are big shots that he had to take. You know, a head kick. Paulo Costa landed wrapped around the head. So many significant strikes that Jared Cannonier landed, and then Roman Dolidze even landed some big ones in the first and the third round of their first fight. I'm honestly gonna say a late round two TKO. I think that Roman Dolidze is due for a KO win, and Marvin Vettori is due for a KO loss. He can't have this blockhead chin that is the greatest chin of the UFC of all time forever. It has to go at some point, and I think that this is gonna be the time where it goes. And I think that if I get this as a KO, while most people are picking decision, I think that this is a great underdog picks here. So uh, I think that this is a very solid picks for me here. Very solid card actually as well. Very underrated, you know. And my last card wasn't too great, 6 of 10 picks. But I think this time I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna get maybe 10 of 11 or something. I think it's 13 actually. I think I'm gonna get at least 10 right on this card. I think I'm pretty confident in this card this time. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Masked MMA out.